has literally doubled in price over 2 days.
Yeah, and it's still not too bad to buy. So if you guys want a cheaper standard deck, the land base is obviously very cheap, and you can get it going.
Greg leads with Cloudfin Raptor, his most threatening turn 1 play, as it can grow real big, real fast. Follows with Omen Speaker.
So we're on, again, and this is a situation where if Lukas has a Supreme Verdict, he's going to reap some real nice benefits here. He's going to, because the Cloudfin Raptor, not aggressive enough for the turn 4 Verdict in this scenario. Omen Speaker is going to put you down a card. Even if you just scry, it gives you a little bit of quality. But at the end of the day, after Greg plays another card in his hand, he'll have three cards left in his hand, and against an Esper player with 6 cards in their hand.
Oh, if one of them's Bident.
Yeah.
He might be coming out ahead.
It needs
still.
to be on time. Yeah, like another creature here, then a Bident. Yeah, that'd be real rough. Let's see what's in the Esper player. And he has his Azorius Charm here, so we're going to see his Cloudfin Raptor on top of his library. He also has Syncopate, so he might just wait. Yeah, I'll probably wait here. I think he has Verdict at the end of his hand, so I think he does have the dream start, land and Verdict. That's what I would want.
Greg has Nightveil Spectre and Frostburn Weird. Appears to be debating which one to lead here. I wouldn't blame him for debating, going for the Frostburn Weird.
I don't know which one's right. I think you want to keep the Nightveil Spectre because that's a nice post-Verdict threat.
Yep.
But it's going to get syncopated here. And that's fine, too. I don't think Greg minds that, getting that out of his hand.
No, it's a close decision. I don't know which one's right. Depends on the context of a lot of things. Certainly, I'd want to get games before I decided which. It's not like you can really hold the Nightveil Spectre because if you try and play it next turn, you'll still get syncopated, probably.
Yeah.
So
this is actually Lukas doesn't have a Verdict. He has a Detention Sphere, so it does make you have a different gameplay. Now we're gonna have to start picking off creatures one by one instead of just planning on this Board Sweeper. But Greg doesn't know that. Greg has to keep playing like he has something like that.
I think that once this Frostburn Weirds gets dissolved, that's kind of a tip to Greg. My opponent does not have Supreme Verdict available.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is definitely, Verdict is not my hand. And did he scry? He didn't scry. So Lukas misses a scry trigger.
He may have done it very quickly. I
don't have to be
sure.
there. I don't think I saw it. I don't know, maybe.
And you see Greg follows with the Judge's Familiar now. He didn't lead with it, which he could have done to protect against Dissolve.
Seems to be going pretty fast here. Alright, so he pluses Jace.
And that's a pretty big slowdown for Greg's board.
Yeah, and we mentioned that before the match. And plussing Jace it's a dagger in this deck because the creatures, for the most part, minus your, Thassa, minus the Master and multiples, will make a bunch of little dorks, and that's how you overwhelm them. And you can't overwhelm them with this guy out.
Well, Greg has Thassa. And that's going to actually, be pretty influential on the board, mostly because the Scry 1's going to help him dig towards Bident and the mana to cast it, which is a pretty big deal. And if he turns the Thassa active, it can actually attack for a lot of damage, even with the Jace going active. I imagine Lukas is going to try and de-sphere that.
Yep. Definitely a good play.
Pumps his Jace again.
God, Jace is just so good against this deck. And it's funny because usually you have one attack or two attacks. You have no attacks here. Alright, so we have Cyclotic Rift here. So he can do a nice little surprise in the turn, bounce the Detention Sphere, and then doing a lot of damage with...
Well, he was tapped out for the Thassa.
Oh, yeah.
He can do that
in the
on
future,
a future turn.
Yeah, in the future. So I think the other card in his hand is Tidebender Mage, which is just awful. I mean, it'll grant his godlike powers, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. We're seeing this in action. The mono blue cards, as good as they are against most of the field, they're just all of them are very, very weak against the Esper deck. The Judge's Familiar can't really counter much that's important. Omen Speaker puts you down a card. Cloudfin Raptor doesn't get big enough, and you literally are just down to Thassa, just hoping that you can just beat him with that. Right, so we have one down.
I think he leans rather heavily on Thassa, but there's also the Spectre and the Bident, and his own Jaces and Dissolve. I think those are all the key cards. But that is admittedly not that many cards.
Right, yeah, especially
that's the stress.
2 and 2 and 2 ofs. And his 4 ofs are the ones that are weak. And that's a real issue here.
Lukas draws, has another Hero's Downfall, along with a Hallowed Fountain and an Azorius Charm.
So a Fistful of Removal. We're going to plus Jace here again. And my favorite thing to do with Jace here is when you plus it and get it to 8 is using Jace's ultimate, putting another Jace in play from your deck, and then getting something out of their deck, and then continuing it again.
I wouldn't know. I never see Jace enter play. He does Rift that D-Sphere to free Thassa, who, as a creature, does trigger the Cloudfin Raptor. Lucas is now going to Hero's Downfall the Cloudfin Raptor.
In response, or he's
well, what he actually should have done was Hero's Downfall the Tidebinder Mage in response to the Rift, and that would have prevented the Raptor from growing and gotten rid of the Tidebinder Mage as well, while keeping the Raptor on 2/3. So kind of varies on what you think is more important.
Well, and Thassa would be a creature then too if he did that.
Well, Thassa's not a creature now either. But
he was.
No, sorry, it still is a creature.
Yeah, you would have if you got rid of the double blue there.
You're right.
So it's he's still. I mean, he's still in the driver's seat because he has Azorius Charm, as we know. And again, he's only getting 1 real damage in here when he attacks. Thassa will be going on top of his library. That's if Greg didn't draw anything.
Well, he only has 2 mana open for the Azorius Charm, so the Curse Catcher or Judge's Familiar can actually shut that down.
There we go.
And Lucas will attempt to do that, but if he sacks the Judge's Familiar, the Thassa will stop being a creature.
Yeah, so that actually works out decently as well.
Yeah. It's not a creature anymore. Lucas takes 1 damage.
It's not a creature anymore. So that worked out pretty well.
Oh, that's awkward.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we could have played that Judge's Familiar before we attacked to play around exactly that occurrence.
What a different situation that would have been, huh? All right, so we use this other Detention Sphere here. Or if not others, the original one that got rifted. We hit the god again. And then again, we're back to money. He actually has the Hero's Downfall to hit the Tidebender Mage. Actually, use counter with Judge Familiar. So.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to do that anymore. It was relevant when it would stop the grow on the Raptor and take away Thassa.
Oh, Bident.
Bident is a big game. That's exactly the card Greg needed to draw this turn.
Yeah, but he sadly has to attack Lucas here, right?
He has to attack Lucas for sure.
Okay, so he's going to draw a card here. I think Lucas should hold that card, hold the Hero's Demise. Oh, I guess he can bounce it too.
Yeah.
I kind of like this. I think I'd let Greg have a card. It's not a huge deal, I don't think.
I think that in this day and age, people kind of overestimate the value of a card. It can actually be right a lot of the time to give your opponent a card, especially when the one you're holding is sweet.
Yeah, he did draw a nice one right there too. So if he would have actually allowed that far no or didn't do the far away, he would have been able to verdict here, clear the entire board. All right, so Jason's at 8. Greg's going to give it a little read, even though Greg has a few Jason of his own in his deck.
Yeah, he's no doubt just making sure he understands exactly the ramifications of the ultimate. Obviously, in his deck, he's not ever going for that ultimate. He's just always going for -2s.
Yeah, and actually, the first time I had Jason ultimate against me, my opponent put a Nephalia Dranyard in play, and I had to explain to him, nope, can't do that one. And you wouldn't think that putting a land in place is a huge deal, but decided not to make that happen. I wonder why they put that clause on there. No land. It doesn't really make much sense to me, man. All right, so Greg untaps. He has Island in hand with his returned Bender Mage. He's sending both guys at Jace. Jace is plus, so it's going to do nothing.
Yep, that was just a spot check. Hey, you remember to stack these triggers? And Lucas, I got it.
All right, and let's just roger that.
Well, he doesn't need to go getting cast a Jace from his deck because he just drew one.
Oh, okay.
So, what do you get now?
I don't know.
With your embarrassment of riches.
I guess you get Elspeth.
I think I like Elspeth. This seems good.
Pretty good, yeah. I mean, I don't see anything better.
Could get Ashiok.
You could. Could get Ashiok. All right, get Ashiok, yeah. Oh, you got the 6-mana one. That's weird. Oh, he concedes
Greg concedes to the Elspeth.
I like the concession here because he doesn't get to look through Greg's deck. So even if Lucas has a kind of a good idea of what Greg's playing, he still doesn't know exactly what
In fact, is there an order to Jace's ability? Because he could have started with Greg's deck, and that way he doesn't have to show Greg that he has an Elspeth.
There is an order. I'm not sure of the order. I think it's your deck first.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, but like I said, how often do we ultimate? It's very rare. So.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm morbidly curious, so I'm going to go ahead and check it out myself. Yeah. Why don't you give me a little bit of Lucas's sideboarding strategy, you Esper Master, you.
All right, I'll get real Esper here. If I were Lucas, I'd board out Ashiok, regardless of matchup, but definitely here. And bring in some Ratchet Bombs. Those seem pretty good against his deck. Already another sweeper, because if you notice, Greg's deck has a lot of the same mana cost creatures. I'd bring in Aetherling to replace Ashiok as a better win condition. So definitely Doomblade, definitely Ratchet Bombs, and that's about it. There's not really much. So I guess the more important question is, what do we want to board out? And that would be Ashiok, of course, is 2. But I don't really see many other cards that are just awful in this matchup. It's just a bunch of removal and counter spells, which I think are all fine. Syncopate on the draw, I think, is necessary to counter Thassa on 2 when they're on 3. So I'd take out the 2 Ashiok and probably just bring in 2 Ratchet Bomb, call it a day.
All right, well, on Greg's sideboard, he actually has a fair number of options. He'll certainly be bringing in 3 Gainsay and 2 Negate, no question. They're like the best possible cards he could be bringing in here.
Yeah.
Note the split on Gainsay and Negate, actually pretty interesting because, this is, post-Pro Tour Theros, basically,
Yeah.
and, a lot of people figured Gainsay wouldn't be seeing play because Negate was just going to be better,
Yeah.
but because of this mono blue Devotion
Yes,
deck, which
yes.
has all these blue cards, including Master of Waves, Gainsay is actually, becoming a card because it can counter blue creatures
Yeah.
and some blue spells. So,
I was one of those naysayers. I said
Yeah.
Gainsay was unplayable.
yeah, and
Who saw Frostborn Weird being the best 2-drop Magic right now? It's in every deck. It's in the
Yeah.
Devotion deck. It's in the Control decks for sideboard.
it's in the red decks.
It's in the red decks. It's
crazy.
It's just a deck. It's a card that survives Anger of the Gods as a sweeper. It's a card that blocks all day long, and it is an aggressive card. It's almost like miniature Morphling here, and people are really taking advantage of it. And we've noticed earlier, we've seen on camera that opponents have been forced to Supreme Verdict it all by itself. So it's pretty impressive.
At a minimum, Greg will be bringing in those 5 cards. He also has access to 2 Cyclonic Rift, 2 Jace Architect of Thought, and 3 Rapid Hybridization. Obviously, the hybridizations, they're not even a little interesting.
No.
I don't think that the Cyclonic Rifts are either. In fact, I think he's going to be looking to bring out the ones he has in his main deck.
I think we're counterspelling. I think this Gainsay Negate definitely, and I think maybe a Jace.
That's what I'm kind of curious. There's a bit of a stress between Pithing Needle and Jace, as I think it will come up that you want to be able to Pithing Needle Jace Architect of Thought, right?
Right.
Like in that game, Greg would have certainly loved to do it. It would have been game breaking.
I think if you do that, you actually have to board out Jace himself.
Yeah,
so
you have
that
to board
puts
out
him
your
in a
Jaces. So there's
quite a
definitely
situation.
some stress there. Pithing Needle is a reasonable answer to a few other cards, namely Elspeth and Ratchet Bomb. But that's about it. So I could see Greg bringing in maybe a few Pithing Needles. I don't think he can afford to bring in the full set unless he gets rid of all of his Jaces. And at the same time, the question is, does he want to bring in his own Jaces?
That fell out too.
You think he's going to board out Tidebinder Mage?
Maybe not all.
I think he boards out Omen Speaker first, right?
Yeah, Omen Speaker is worse. I think Tidebender is literally a Grizzly Bear, and I understand the theory behind it. But to notice, he's playing 3 Thessa, which is kind of like the new thing now, because I've seen 4 is not exactly popular. Almost all these listed at 3.
I'm going to run 4.
Yeah, I think if I were to play this deck, I'd want 4. I mean, because especially against Esper, where they have Detention Sphere, and they have Azorius Charm, and they have lots of counter spells, they can stop Thessa from hitting the board.
Yeah.
And it seems like a card that you just want to have every time, all the time.
Interestingly, I saw among one of the lists that top-aided Pro Tour Theros, I can't recall exactly which player had this. I believe it was Pierre Dagen or Jeremy Dazani. I'm pretty sure it was Jeremy, actually. He was running a split in his main deck. He had, the 1 or 2 Cyclonic Rift, but he also had a Singleton Disperse. Which, you would think, isn't that just going to be strictly worse than Cyclonic Rift most of the time?
Yeah.
But when it comes to protecting Thassa, God of the Sea, from Detention Sphere, specifically that situation, I think it's actually a fair bit better.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking Ricky a while back. I'm like, is Cyclonic Rift better than a Boomerang effect? Because a lot of times, your best cards are the ones that win you the game. Your 2 of Bident and then your 3 of Thassa. You kind of want a way to save it. And I agree. I kind of think if I were to play this deck, I'd play maybe a Negate or 2 in the main, because the only times I've seen this deck lose is to a hasted the Hydra, the Cutter.
Mist Cutter
Hydra, because of just the ability to... They actually have no answer in the deck to it, besides an overloaded Cyclonic Rift. And then things that remove Thassa from the game. So those are the big things. So I'd want a lot of counterspells protected. Then again, every deck I have, I'll put in more counterspells. So
Yeah, I know.
if it's mono red,
I think that the Rift gets better the more Nykthos you run. Greg's running 3 Nykthos, which is hardly standard. I think most of the lists at the Pro Tour ran 1 or 2.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely much better.
That's worth
in that situation.
considering as well.
That overload is almost fate, inevitability. All right, so we do see the Supreme Verdict in Lucas' hands, so this will be a different game. And Greg still needs to remember what deck he's playing against, because even though it wasn't a Verdict game 1, you can't really get Verdicted out here.
Yeah. Greg does have Mutavault here, which is a good weapon for fighting Supreme Verdict. Lets him have a source of damage still on the board once the Wrath resolves. And he goes ahead and plays it out so that he can, start threatening attacks with it if he decides he wants to.
His hand is very slow. I think if he has Thassa here, he has to play it. I think there is Syncopate involved, but you have to try. I think like the longer you wait, the more counterspells you allow them to get, because now you turn on Dissolve, larger syncopates. I think playing draw go with Esper is also a huge mistake.
Yeah, it's a dangerous situation to get yourself into.
I mean, you can start baiting things out now by playing like Master of Ways, but I'd probably rather have a few guys out before dropping that.
I think playing the Master or the Omen Speaker is fine here. Note that Greg does have a Pithy Needle in his hand, so we know that he brought in at least some of those.
Yeah, and I think it's a good play. Either that or just maxing Jace's, one or the other. Either fight Jace with Jace or fight it with your own. So he left Omen Speaker in, so you have to assume he board out some Tidebitter Mages. I'm kind of on with you. I don't know if the one more power and the one more devotion is better than Scry 2. I think it is. I think, especially with Jace out there being +1 and wanting to get fast out early, I'd probably rather have the power there.
I think that it is, although the Scry 2 does give you a better shot at digging to Bident, which, as we noted, is such an important card.
Yeah.
Wow, Greg keeps both. Tops his Omen Speaker. Always intimidating to see Scry go top.
That's true.
You're like, man, I'm screwed next turn and the turn after that?
Yeah,
that's rough.
And that's when you want to Esper. I saw, and this is, again, it states, so it's more casual. I saw people playing Psychic Strike over Dissolve. That's a funny thing to do after someone keeps a couple spells there.
That is actually really funny. That's awesome.
And get rid of here.
It might even be easier to cast in certain decks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, blue-black is much easier. All right, so it looks like his hand is just everything he wants. Lucas has Doomblade, he has Elspeth, he has Verdict, he has Revelation. He's got a lot of good stuff in there.
I like this attack from Greg. He actually is offering to trade his Mutavault for a removal spell, but if Lucas takes him up on the deal, he gets to cast Thassa.
That's true, yeah. So I like this play here. All right, so Lucas is going to play a land untapped here. So now he has mana to do multiple things. He's going to say go. Worst case scenario, he's going to Revelation for 2 at a turn here. And the beauty about Esper in this matchup is that you can use your life as a resource much easier because he's not going to attack you for, like, red damage. He's not going to be able to burn you out. So take your time.
He sends in the same attack again, and this time it meets the Doomblade.
I think Greg is going to allow this, but maybe a Dissolve here to bait his Dissolve, so then you can actually play your threat next turn.
You're kind of fighting on his terms, though, at that point, right?
Yeah, I think, and then he might untap play Elspeth here, which is, we know would happen.
Yeah, I think that if the Elspeth happens, Greg is in really bad shape, so he continues to hold open his Dissolve and try to play that game.
And Greg's deck can't handle really many on-board pressures. He has to stop him from landing and play.
Yeah, the problem is that Lucas is designed to play, the flash game, whereas Greg's deck, it really isn't. It's designed to play the fish game.
Yeah.
You get some guys on the board, and you start attacking your opponent.
Yeah. Greg does have the Pithy Needle, so maybe you shouldn't be too afraid of a Resolve, Elspeth, or Jace. But we'll see if he can... So Revelation for 3 here. Now things are getting rough. This is where Flash takes over. So he's going to bite, and then Lucas is going to untap and play Elspeth.
Yeah, he needs to be able to dissolve a real spell, though. That's, I think, why we didn't dissolve the Doomblade. Trading a Doomblade for dissolve is a great trade for Lucas, even if he still has to take 2 damage in the meantime.
You see what he drew?
He drew Ashiok. I guess he didn't board that out.
Oh, Lucas.
Maybe he'll have to find Lucas and give him a heart-to-heart.
Yeah. I'm like, you guys don't have to listen to me, but you probably should listen to Waffle Topper. He's not a bad mage from what I heard. All right, so Elspeth comes out. Dudes in play. Soldiers.
I think if I'm Greg, I want probably Jace Pithy Needle here.
Yeah, definitely. I think you Jace first and try to flip another Pithy Needle. Lucas will put it in one pile by itself, and then you get him. I love doing that with Jace. Play the Jace first. Try to bait him to give you that Pithy Needle in the 2 pile.
Keep in mind that if we neg 2, we will lose our Jace. The soldier tokens aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But at the same time, considering our opponent's deck has Hero's Downfall in it, it might be a fine trade.
Right, yeah. I definitely it does feel bad, especially against Jund of Old, to play Jace and plus it, just so you don't lose it and they dreadboard.
Yeah, I would kind of be tempted to play Jason plus
especially
here
when
myself.
I'm low on land, too, because he has a fistful of cards, so he just needs a few land here. So he takes a 2 land pile here, he's going to be really in good shape. At least Greg will have some ammunition.
Yeah.
So... he's going to play Jace. No, he's going to play the Pithy Needle first. It's not really a big mistake. It's just a small thing. So if he does flip Pithy Needle over in this pile, Lucas will be more inclined to hand him the Pithy Needle.
That's assuming he's neg 2ing. If he's plussing, it doesn't really matter what order he goes in.
Right.
And he's plussing.
Yep.
All right.
I don't mind this play either. I think they're both fine.
Yep. I think it's a close decision.
Yep.
When you're right, you feel like a genius, and when you're wrong, you feel like, I should have done it the other way.
Should have minus it. He had the Hero's Downfall. He actually doesn't have it in hand right now.
He does have a Detention Sphere, though. You might wind up using that here.
I definitely would do that. He could hit the Pithing Needle though. Actually, probably hit the Pithing Needle. And then plus Elspeth again. I don't see, there's not many evasion creatures in Greg's deck. So he's going to hit the Chase. Because look at his deck. What does he have? Nightville Spectre and a bunch of 1/1s.
There is a card in his deck that grants evasion.
Right, yeah.
Thassa can let you run through all those soldiers in a hurry.
Yeah, that's true.
But when
being at 6 and then
I think
2 turns, an ultimate.
I think the best weapon is probably just Master of Waves, to be honest.
Here comes a dissolve for this. It's an easy decision.
Lucas may be scared of a Syncopate, Gainsay, or Negate from Greg.
Alright, so I guess he's going to play the Doomblade, the Creatures plan, and so to prevent Thassa from being something. But that Scry 1 is going to really pay off at return to kind of overwhelm Lucas eventually.
Looking at Greg's hand, he has a Master and a Gainsay at a minimum, as well as another Thassa, so he actually wouldn't have minded losing one. And a Snap Negate on Ashiok earns a Snap Dissolve from Lucas, which is interesting because we were both talking about how we don't really like the card in the matchup.
No, definitely not.
But Lucas now has one in play at great cost.
Yeah, and at this point, any Planeswalker would be good because Greg has just no offense. So, I mean, anything here would be good. I think a Jace would be a lot better, obviously. A working Elspeth would be a lot better.
Finds an Omen Speakers. Well, if Greg can turn on his Thassa next turn, he can theoretically give it unblockable and just execute that Ashiok. Yeah. So we'll have to see if that's even a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, Lucas is tapped out for Singleton Plains here. And, you know, that's not going to do it. That's not going to stop Greg from assembling the Legion here.
He would need, like, Tidebinder Mage and a 1-drop, right? Or no, he's actually short the colored mana to do even that.
He can do...
If he has a Tidebinder Mage, he can make more mana with the Nykthos.
Yes. He can play Tidebinder Mage, activate the land, and then he'll have...
any 2-drop, and he can give evasion. But we already know that he doesn't have another 2-drop in his hand, so he can't find one in the straw stack.
I don't think he's in a huge hurry. The problem is we know that Lucas has Spring Verdict.
Yeah.
So we know he needs a hurry, but I don't know if Greg knows he needs a hurry.
I see it. He has a Tidebinder Mage actually in his hand. That's the card he was concealing behind his second Thassa and his Gainsay. So if this is a 2-drop, he can... take care of that Thassa, or that Ashiok, and that might be the math he's doing himself right now.
Yeah, let's see if he does it here.
A 2-drop or a 1-drop, actually.
I don't think I can't see that other card, I'm not sure.
It's Master of Waves, Tidebinder Mage, Thassa.
Okay. Has he shown that top card yet? That's what
no, he hasn't shown the top card. He's still mulling it over.
Alright, so I don't think Lucas is too afraid right now. I would be feeling good with a couple verdicts in my hand.
I'd be feeling like I'm the favorite, but I wouldn't be feeling dominant.
Yeah. Nothing arrogant here, but... Alright, so we'll see how it goes.
Master of Waves was the card, and he sends it to the bottom. So his consideration there was likely over, do I want to try and take this long, or, do I need to just get going?
Yeah, I like putting Master Waves on the bottom. I think he needs something a little quicker than that. Yeah. And he has another one in his hand anyway. So
plays the Tidebinder Mage. Nykthos can now generate an extra mana. So he can make 4. And that doesn't really get him anywhere. He can cast Master of Waves.
And then we know what's going to happen.
And he'll get verdicted for everything he has in play. Yeah,
it's just a rough situation. Like, you have to play all these things, and then they just play one card that you can't counter ever, and then it just blows you out. Maybe if Esper becomes big, Mono Blue might have to look for another color, maybe root down defenses or something to prevent that from happening.
I think I might have gone for just Nykthos for 4, and then animate my Mutavault and give Omen Speaker and Mutavault unblockable, and just come in.
Did he have the mana for that?
Yeah, he had exactly enough for that, I believe, doesn't he?
Before that?
He would make 4. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, he was one. He would be 1 shy.
Well, not loyalty, whatever. Devotion. That's it.
He could just get in for the 2, and I think that was probably our best option, as we're really open to a verdict now.
Yeah, and you have to assume.
But I don't know. It's hard for me to say when
between a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah.
So he gets to attack here at least and get rid of some of these soldiers, but we know it's coming.
Yeah. Lucas is just going to block both, and as soon as he does that, Greg gets the tip off. He's like, oh, they're both getting blocked? Oh, so all these creatures are going to die very soon. I got it. Yeah.
So Greg knows what the spell of choice will be here for Lucas. It's fun to see, and I'm really excited to see Verdict at its best. This is the best it's ever been. Before, when you had Verdict, it came out right after Delver was not popular. You know, not been great with Delver around, and it's been all these Thragtusk around forever now. So, but now again, it's good. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's clearing a board for you, making the world safe again.
Ashiok goes up, hits 2 more lands and a negate, and Lucas plays Ratchet Bomb and ships the turn. And Ratchet Bomb is an answer to that Pithing Needle. Greg is in trouble now.
Big trouble. Instead of this is definitely the right play. Before I saw the Ratchet Bomb, I was like, oh, why is he not playing Open Speaker? Because that's definitely better than milling right here, because you get to go dig for more nasty control things. But in this situation, I guess Holding Doomblade is safe.
Well, plus he has, a soldier token still in play. That'll make Greg spend mana to activate anything. He'd have to activate Mutavault and give it unblockable to do anything.
We know now Doomblade will prevent all that from happening.
Wait, actually,
he has Jace now.
Why does he have a soldier in play? Is that soldier left over from?
Oh yeah, that soldier should be gone.
The Supreme Verdict? Yeah, we're covering that. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're like, how does soldier get there? Oh yeah. No, that thing is gone. All right, so
it's easy to forget.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, I think we play Jace here and just start getting some cards back in our hand.
Yeah, I agree, but it's a grim spot. With that Ratchet Bomb in play, we know Elspeth's going to start taking us out.
So yeah, you're going to need a Jace here to hit another Pithing Needle to replace that lost one, because we just know that there's just no answer in Greg's deck for these cards. These control cards are weak against the red decks, and they're so fast they can burn you out the rest of the way. But we know that Greg has no reach after it's all said and done. If he doesn't bite it his hand back to full, Lucas's life will be 11 for the rest of this game.
Yeah. Now he taps his mana, not leaving the Mutavault open. I'm not really sure why. I feel like I would want to attack here regardless. I mean, my opponent might have a Doomblade or a Charm, but unless I know it for sure, I think I would want the attack.
Who cares if your Mutavault gets killed? You're going to have to get that Doomblade out of his hand eventually.
Yeah. Tough spot.
I think Greg's just realizing how grim of a spot he's in. All right, so Lucas is going to untap here. He drew his own Jace. Pretty good.
Yeah, a third Planeswalker will certainly help to establish his presence. Before, we weren't really sure if he was in the game.
All right, let's see if this is good enough here.
Neg 2s, Greg makes some room on the board.
Ratchet Bomb, so good here. Because now, that bomb is just on the board for anything that he could ever worry about later on. All right, I'll take the Ratchet Bomb here.
Lucas debating. Thinks, man, Syncopate for 3 would be pretty sweet to keep up.
It is, yeah. I think the bomb on 4 not only gets rid of his Jace eventually, but also if he draws it invited, it gets rid of that. It just has so many ways, so many things you can get rid of. Easy decision there.
Yeah. Elspeth goes up to 6 after the bomb blows away the Pithing Needle, as expected, and now Greg's in a bind, under a lot of pressure. 2 lands and a Gainsay from Greg's library for the Ashiok.
And again, we've seen Ashiok can play 3 turns, and it's literally done nothing. And
that's not true. It's exiled 9 cards.
It has exiled 9 cards, and we know how important milling is. But it's just one of those cards that just doesn't have any real on-board application against most of these decks in the format. And Wafo realized that, and a lot of players have, and I see this card being played a lot less and less, where I see a lot more Thasses in the future.
It's funny, because I actually think Ashiok gets better the more cards you add to the format. I think it's better in Modern than it is in Standard, and I think it's better in Legacy than it is in Modern.
Yeah, at least in Modern, at least in Legacy, you only have to -1 or 2 to get a bomb creature, because all the creatures are 1 or 2 mana, they're all insane. But in Standard, you're minusing it and getting a Tidebender mage. It's not so good. And you wasted 2 turns to do so. I mean, it's just too much. In
the Legacy format, it obviously plays well with Deathrite Shaman, and Legacy also has significantly less Abrupt Decays than, say, Modern. Obviously the card's good in both formats, but Modern has way more Abrupt Decay decks than Legacy does, so it has a smaller percentage of the metagame share.
Right.
And it's one of the best cards against Ashiok by a country mile.
Yeah, and it's tough, too, because, like you said, if they Abrupt Decay the first time, it just does nothing. Almost every Planeswalker in Magic, when it comes into play, it does some in-game application. Liliana makes you Edict, and Elspeth makes guys, and Jace Brainstorms. So if you get rid of it, no harm, no foul. I still got card advantage out of it. With this card, you don't. And you might not even get card advantage after 2 or 3 activations, because a lot of these Legacy decks, the older Stoneblade ones, not the Deathblade ones, only have 8 creatures in it, so the chance of milling a creature is pretty low. Or they can brainstorm a response and you help them out a lot of times too. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. But you're right. It's definitely better in older formats. And Standard, I think, is just abysmal.
Greg, in an awkward spot, appears to be going for the Jace kill with his Mutavault. He had enough mana to cast Master of Waves or hold up Dissolve. He could not do both. He was one short of being able to do both thanks to Nykthos. So this is the line he's on instead. Oh, he's going on going at Ashiok. I guess he's fearing the ultimate, given that he actually has a fair number of cards in hand right now.
Yeah.
Doomblade executes it, and that might just sew up the game on the spot, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think Greg's been in it for about 4 or 5 turns now, but this is one of those. You're looking at 3 active Planeswalkers. It's just too rough.
I think that's a little exaggerated. I agree he's very far behind now.
Yeah, I'm definitely a pessimist in Magic, and Chapin and I had a little debate about this. When in Magic do you concede? And I wouldn't concede in Greg's position. I'd want to. Every fiber of my being would want to. But like when we watch Legacy players, someone played a Blood Moon against a deck with no basics. I don't care about seeing the rest of your deck. I'm miserable.
Yeah.
I can't cast any more spells. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to get to my sideboard. I want to put cards in there. I want to get back on that horse. When you lose a game, you can't wait to get to the next game so you can actually win that game. You want to get back in the mix. So
yeah, it's funny because for me, conceding the way I always think, is there even a remote possibility I could win the game? Like when I'm streaming, people can even see me do it. I'll be really far behind. Looks like I'm probably dead, and I'll just stop and go. Put my hand on my chin and just stare at the screen while streaming and just try and figure out if there's anything I can do. And if I can't figure anything out, then I'll concede. But if I can perceive even a runner situation, then I go. And that's also just good practice, I think, for Magic in general. Being able to identify.
I definitely stay in there. Yeah, I definitely stay in there when I'm out. It's more like you're the mono red player, they Revelation for 6 and they Revelation for 7 afterward, they're at 25 life and with 30 cards in their hand.
Yeah, man, you could draw some burn there. Those could all be lands.
Need all the burn. Need to go deep for that one.
Greg scries with his Thassa, still digging for help.
Elspeth is breaching into Ultimate realm. It's Elspeth Ultimate is just pretty sweet.
Yeah, Jace's +1 is currently keeping the soldiers at bay, but it won't for much longer.
And I was an advocate of Elspeth right from the beginning, but just watching it after playing with it, it's a different kind of good. It's just one of those where every ability is so crucial. It's so good. It's just $40 6-mana Planeswalker. Who would have seen that, right?
All right. Well, Greg plays Tidebinder Mage and then activates Thassa's unblockable ability on herself, and looks like she's going to gun at someone.
Yeah.
The only question is who. Greg, I think he realizes that he could have activated Nykthos for 5 mana and then given her unblockable and cast a spell for 3 mana or something like that.
What's that Ratchet Bomb at? Do you leave it at 0?
It's at 0, yeah.
I think I would have cranked that up to 2. That would get Thassa. If it was at 2, it would be 2. It should be at 2 this turn.
Never gonna get Thassa.
Not Thassa, excuse me. Tidebender Mage.
Sure.
Thassa would be turned off.
That's kind of playing around a pretty tight situation, though.
But there's leaving it at 0 is just for the 1 card, and you already put 1 in the graveyard. And then again, it's not that great.
Yeah, I don't think you would want a 0 either. That's my biggest thing. I would have probably ticked it up just because I have a bunch of soldier tokens too. What are the odds I'm going to actually throw all those away?
Did he forget the Jace trigger? I think he forgot the Jace trigger. He went from 7 to 2.
Oh yeah, we'll have to get a correction on that. The Thassa should have been or actually, I'm sorry, no, don't. He missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, he should. He made a mistake. It's okay though. I think he's ultimating here. He's exiling all of his cards in his hand and graveyards. And again, another ability like you mentioned in Legacy, the ultimate on that actually does something with graveyards. And standard graveyards are pretty worthless nowadays for the most part.
Those are also 2 separate exile piles now. We'll want to get them unified.
Yeah. Yep. You can use all those cards.
That's true. You can get your own little Thassa Galaxy if you so desire.
So we're going to take about 3 more turns. So one day. Oh, man.
Sphinx's Revelation for 7.
So back to the discussion about concession. You're still full.
I'm still fighting here.
Still fighting here.
I'm still fighting. What do I look like? A chump?
I'm a chump. Oh, that Revelation would chumpify me. But we'll see what happens here.
Hey, he's got a Nykthos, an active Thassa, an active Jace.
He's got Jace going. Yeah, he's got stuff.
What more could a man want? a bunch of soldier tokens on his opponent's side of the board.
I actually wouldn't concede here either, mainly because he actually has a board.
Yeah.
So he's still in this.
I can picture my runner.
Yeah,
that's all I really need.
I think that, I mean, if that ratchet bomb was up to 2 still, Thassa would be turned off.
Yeah, I think that now we should be boosting up the ratchet bomb. Maybe there's a die off screen that we can't see or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it seems very peculiar that it has continued to sit.
And also not attacking with tokens, I understand this, because you're just going to run them into a 2/2. But then again, you're only losing 1 token. Oh, he plus Jace.
Yeah, Greg's Jace is keeping the tokens at bay. Yeah. So we would be spot checking, basically.
Sorry, I got pretty much excited about the Elspeth being at 7. I thought we had good times here.
Well, we can Nykthos to give both our guys unblockable, and we'll have a mana to spare. And that'll allow us to execute Elspeth and Ashiok.
Right now. And I would not fill out W9.
This is a perfect example of
for you to do so because we don't
Ashiok not doing enough in this
Again, we
matchup.
7-2 right now. I would not fill out W9.
What we just did was strictly worse than just Nykthosing, right?
Yeah.
We spent an extra land to kill those planeswalkers, but we did do the play described, and they are dead. So we're going to boost Jace.
So, Greg, and I think you're right, I think the situation's turned, I think Lukas drew a ton of land there.
Yeah.
He does have a Doom Blade
Man.
to stop this. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
you battle, Shaheen.
Yeah, that's why
I ain't no chump. I'm not going down without a fight.
You're Rocky Balboa here in this. I can't do it. Mainly, I just don't play decks that put me in that situation. Like, I always have outs, unless I'm dead. Like, I turn 4 or 5, you know? There's always outs in the control deck. There's always ways to get out of the situations.
Yeah, I don't think Greg has been in a spot in this game that was concession worthy. And he certainly isn't now. It's even looking slightly favorable. Lukas has another Elspeth, but it's not long for this world. You know, we've had the exact same combination of plays that we had last turn. So unless his rev dug him into an answer.
He has Doomblade.
He has Doomblade?
So
okay.
So he can stop the Tidebender Mage.
He thought sees Island.
Land here, so he can Doomblade and cast.
Yeah. I believe he's making sure that he didn't play a land before he plays land. So it's actually a pretty big deal, as you know, if he can't play a land here, he could be the access to Doomblade and Dissolve would be a pretty big deal.
He 100% didn't play a land this turn, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
he confirms that as well, and now he has access to Doomblade and Dissolve.
He has 6 cards in hand. He drew for turn. If he would have played a land, he would have had 9 or 8 cards at end of turn.
Yeah.
So he definitely did not play a land. So Greg here, scrying, looking into the future.
Players may have heard, our audience may have heard players called to time. However, the feature match actually got started a little slower due to a deck check, and we have plenty of time. So these players still battling. Although it is looking more and more likely that Greg will be fighting for a draw, as the longer it takes him to get into this.
Yeah, and especially here we know Lukas has Counterspell, Doomblade, and Greg only has 1 card that actually does something, so there's nothing Greg could draw here that could stop the series of plays from happening. Yeah,
Greg uses Nykthos this time to activate his guys, and he makes the attacks we assume will happen.
Thassa will become a nothing. He did draw the Dissolve, though, so he gets to actually...
Greg drew Dissolve?
Yeah,
wow.
Greg drew Dissolve, but luckily Lukas has a Dissolve of his own. You have to dissolve here. Yeah, you don't have a choice.
He dissolves, and Lukas fires right back, and you see Greggy knocks his hands together. He's like, no, he had it. Man, that's tough.
God, you Revelation for 7 and you drew it? What a lucky guy.
I mean, he had to draw, the Doomblade and the Dissolve, which that's a small feat, and he also had, another Elspeth along with all
he had the Elspeth prior.
Yeah, but I mean, Greg seeing all these cards is like, how many of these can he have drawn? He could only have drawn so many.
That's true. I'll tell Greg, welcome to Esper, my friend. Every card we draw is good. So.
We're getting a soldier count. That's 12 soldiers. We've run out of tokens.
Yep.
And Jace finds us Hero's Downfall, Supreme Verdict, Syncopate.
That is the card.
That's going to be a tough road to hoe. Greg will need a fair bit of work to get back to an active Thassa, or he'll just need a Bident.
Well, actually, with Thassa, with the Hero's Downfall here, those 12 soldiers are now pretty daggone lethal soon. It's like,
that's true. We're actually starting to get there.
Yeah. Oh, there's another MVP of the day, Ashiok. Maybe in another 15 turns he can exile Greg's hand again. Of course I kid. I like to joke around my friends here. Twitter's actually having a pretty live debate, and I got a few people involved with, not on my personal page, and then we've got a few other people involved in it. Ali has joined in on Facebook, so we're having Ali Andrazi for those listening. So we're having a good old fun Ashiok bash here. Ali is actually pro Ashiok, so we have two sides.
We split this Jace. He gives him Thoughtseize, or a land. I'm pretty sure Lukas took the land, but I guess I can't be 100%.
Yeah, I mean, at this point.
The Ashiok exiles 3 cards. We have 2 separate exile zones because we have 2 separate Ashioks.
yes. That Ashiok is going to start work again.
Greg scries, draws. He has no way to turn his Thassa online this turn, and he's got some issues over the next 2 turns, as those soldiers will begin attacking him.
You can say that again.
Violently and with abandon.
Yeah, with reckless abandon.
Maybe you can trick Lukas into casting Supreme Verdict. That's about his only out here.
Mindslaver. That was a fun card.
Lukas attacks for 12.
They actually changed the rule for Mindslaver right when I played it at the last Worlds tournament, where you were actually allowed to look through their sideboard after you did it. So when I slaver someone trying, they get to go through their deck box and
take
look
a gander.
Things. Oh man, what a fun card.
Greg, I believe, is only out here Cyclonic Rift, which, as we discussed, he actually likely boarded out.
Yeah, and even if he gets a Cyclonic Rift here, it's just rough pasture ahead.
Yeah, we haven't seen a Cyclonic Rift exiled, I don't think, although I honestly have not been paying attention to the whiffs.
I think Lukas is anti-Ratchet Bomb. That Ratchet Bomb is just lonely sitting there at 0 the whole game. Poor Ratchet Bomb.
Greg taking a peek, bottoms it. Oh, appears to be debating it. Wow, now I really want to know what it could be.
Yep. I think there's just no card in Magic besides Cyclonic Rift that he would ever leave here on top.
Draws, it's Gainsay. Nykthos was already in his hand, and that's game.
Yeah, even though
Hard
Greg
fought.
Yeah, it was well fought. Even though Greg danced with Lukas a little bit,